Hello, humans of the internet. Welcome to Azurhia Under the Hood. I was just glancing at my thing to make sure that my sound is actually working. This is our third Azurhia Under the Hood stream, but second one where I'm talking about game system stuff. So I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into what I have in mind for the skill tree things and hopefully start actually constructing some of those. If you're new here, what's happening is I have played D&D and Pathfinder for a bit now, and I've been running some online games, but I keep finding that I'm running into the same problems with these systems, so I'm basically making one from scratch because I'm a maniac. Um, and the sort of driving force behind this is to try and create a D20 based system that is much stronger on the storytelling and not as strong on the mechanics. And that has like structure and guidance and stuff, but also leaves a lot open for what am I trying to say? Flexibility, like character growth in interesting ways, basically, because I always find the most interesting stories happen when we let that happen. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to do this so you can see my awesome spreadsheet of awesomeness. Alright, so these were just my examples that I was talking about last time, so I'm going to make it go away for now. I've been thinking about this more, and I'm starting to wonder if perhaps this may be a little bit insane, but I'm going to just chase this thought down a little bit. Perhaps we do away with levels altogether. And instead of using levels, because I already want to use like expertise points and skill points and essentially learning points for when people do things or encounter things that make character decisions based on what's happening. So, you know, learn new things or have moments where they're like, you know, maybe I need to know more about this thing, whatever. Maybe instead of making that a explicit leveling thing, we make it an ongoing kind of rolling improvement in what they can do. I'm not sure that I'm going to stick with this, but it was just an idea I had. And I thought about skill trees and how when, like if you're playing games that have skill trees, a lot of them will just give you points as you go along for various things. So maybe something like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. For now, however, I'm going to stick with kind of the gist of what we had and just kind of build something out and see what we end up with. Welcome to the way my brain works. Sometimes I just chase down an idea to see what happens. We may end up throwing this all away. Creative process, woo. Okay, so there are a few things that I wanted to do with this. I wanted to have basically kind of lines and branches that are, some are general and some are specific to particular classes. It's probably going to get out of control really fast, but that's fine. Let's just go and see. So general skills. So I opened up, if I just do this real quick, I opened up, this is what I want. Archives of Nethos, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's a really useful repository for Pathfinder stuff. And then my own World Anvil, which has quite a bit of stuff in it as well. So I'm gonna just open the classes bit. Wait, gimme. Thank you. Gimme. No, gimme. I'm being really stupid. Why is it not opening? Maybe I didn't do it. Maybe I didn't put them all in yet. I thought I had. Classes. Yeah, they're all. I don't know. Sorry, I'm super squeaky. It turns out my throat gets really hoarse in the morning for some reason. I don't normally talk in the morning for like the first 2 hours that I'm awake. And now I am. And my voice is like, what is this nonsense? Anyway, that one can go away. So I started, I'm just going to pull this open a bit more. I started building these out a while back based on the Pathfinder leveling processes. And the thing I discovered was that there's a lot of repetition. So for example, these things. So I've changed them a little bit, but in the original leveling systems, let's just pick a random one. A lot of these things are just essentially just perception buffs or fortitude buffs, or like it's the same stuff. It just happens at different levels for different classes, and it happens at different, and obviously the focus is slightly different. So if it's a wisdom based class, then the wisdom stats are the ones that get focused. But what I want to do is I'm going to just chuck that out. Like if we know that those classes, that all the classes have a certain amount of that going on, maybe we just let people buff their skills, right? So we have the 6 basic skills. You'll also notice I haven't done anything with saving throws here. I'm still thinking about that. I understand the point of having like the ability to be proficient in a saving throw and not in the skill, but at the same time I think maybe we can build that into expertise and skills anyway. Still noodling on that one, so we'll come back to it later. But in the meantime, so we have Dex, we have, I feel like I've done that in the wrong order, Strength, Con, Dex, there we go. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Strength, Con, Dex. Oh, the formatting isn't. I'll fix it. I hate it when the formatting's not. Then Reason. Oh, that's not how you spell Reason. Reason and Instinct. If you're new here, I have replaced Wisdom and Intelligence with Reason and Instinct because I feel like those words better explain what it is those things actually do. Alright, so I guess the idea here is that you would just, because if we go back here and we actually look at these things, yeah, so Uncanny Dodge, that's slightly different. There you go, see, Indomitable Will is just a boost to will saves. And there's some version of that in almost every class. It's called something different, but that's the gist. It's all basically the same kind of thing. And I feel like there's also a Dex version. And maybe that not every class gets them, but they're all essentially just buffs. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to we can give them fancy names later, but essentially what we're going to do is say +2 to saves. Just copy that across here. Bro. Right, fine. Just do that then. My fingers are going too fast for the thing apparently. And then we'll do like a few of those, right? So +2 to save. Why did I not just copy paste? I don't know, because in my brain I was like, this is a different thing now. So the idea here is that people could use their skill points if they chose to at any time at the whatever designated places to improve those particular skills or saves. I've said saves, we're still debating saves in the Jack's brain, but I think it makes sense to still have some kind of save, as opposed to just using these, you know, original 6 stats. So I'm gonna just stick with that for now. Maybe we do like 3 levels of that. Oh, I did it in the wrong place. There we go. And what that means is that people can then increase their ability to save in particular ways at points, but they would be using points to do it, so they would be doing it at potentially at the expense of not doing other things. However, it means that if people want to build classic D&D / Pathfinder style character builds, they can still do that. But if you don't care about saves, then you can just do whatever you want with other things. Which is the point of what I'm trying to do here, is to make it much more flexible. But also it means that if you have a character who goes into a situation and discovers that, and they're not a Dexy thing, and discovers that they really suck at dodging dragon's breath, for example, then they can in-game focus on training that, and then do the +2 to saves, which will improve their thing. And it means that you can then have that conversation with players, which is like, okay, well, you want to make your decks better, that's great. What is your character actually doing in the real world, or doing in the world, real world, listen to me, doing in the world to make this work better for them? So then your mechanics and your story are much more aligned with each other. I think one of the things that really bothers me in both D&D and Pathfinder is that characters can just suddenly do things, and there's no reason for it at all. It's just like, boo, I woke up one day and I could do this thing. And it feels not great to me personally. It's just one of my things. Okay, so if I go back to my one, so my original solution to this problem was to make those particular, see, that's a stamina. So stamina is fortitude saves is what that's based on. But what I was doing was that I was making them more specific. So I was making, like, the druid ones were specific to druid stuff. But I feel like that's actually limiting instead of improving. And if you're good at dodging, you're probably good at dodging. My solution was to try to make it specific to the things that class may have encountered. And I don't think that's actually a good solution. So, hence why I have changed my mind about how to do it. Alrighty. So that's just a basic thing. We may add to that later, but it's frankly not that interesting. So we're gonna just roll along a bit. Where do we want to start? What I am gonna do is I'm gonna just pull this and just split the screen so we have these two open. Right. Go away. Okay, so I guess the other thing would be, I feel like HP should just go up by itself. This is where throwing out the leveling thing doesn't work so well. Okay, for now I'm just going to go HP. So one of the things I wanted to do was have each hit point increase be 2 dice instead of just 1. So there's a class die and a ancestry die. So if you come from a class that ancestry that is, big and buff and tough, like if you're a fucking Oread who's made of rock, right? You're gonna get stronger just because you're made of rock. So letting people increase both of those things and have a different die for each of the things you're doing. So maybe we build that into the ancestry and let's do that instead. Alright, so we have general skills. Then we're going to have, I know it's not pretty, it will be pretty, don't you fret. Alright, then we're going to have ancestry, skill is the wrong word for this, but whatever. Let's go ancestry trees, which makes it sound like genealogy, but whatever. Alright, so HP then becomes okay, wrapping my brain around this is a challenge, I tell you what. Okay, because I've got it all in my head, but trying to get it out in a way that makes sense to other people is a challenge. Alright, so I am fairly certain I have popped these in here. So we're gonna have in here, we're gonna have Asimars, we're gonna have Anadi. Just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure. I'm gonna just dump them in for now, and we will spread them as we need to. Android automaton Azar kitty catfolk. I will probably do the more common ones to start with, and then we can work through the others later. But the ancestry stuff is actually fairly straightforward. It's a lot simpler than the class stuff, generally speaking. So, Dwarf. So what I did when I decided what was going to be in this world is I went through the D&D ones, and I went through the Pathfinder ones, and I basically picked anything that seemed to make sense. Some of these names will probably change, especially the stuff that is very specific to those systems. And I will be adding some things because I too am a folklore nerd, and there are things that I think should be in this world that don't exist in those systems. So, oi, thank you. I also really want to build a mechanic that allows ancestries to be mixed. And I think that doing it in the skill tree style is a good way to do that, because it means that you can start off with a mix, and then you can take those feats for those ancestry feats that exist, but split them across whatever your mix is. Because to me, it makes sense that in a world where beings can interact, unless there's actually a physical reason why they shouldn't be able to have children together, why wouldn't they? We all know what people are like, and people are people, even if they're cats. But I think there probably would be some limitations on, like, it would be tricky for lizard folk, for example, to breed with mammals, or plant folk to breed with mammals. But also, it's a magic world, so maybe we just say fuck it and let people have a little bit of Oriad in them if they want to. I also really want, because of the way this world works and how I've had a lot of thoughts about, like, what do you do when the trees might be legitimately people? Like, how do you deal with food? How do you deal with using natural resources for things? How do you do that ethically? A lot of those questions are at the heart of a lot of the stories that I'm telling. So I really want to have quite a lot of like, what am I trying to say? Oh my god. Like crossover between the natural world and the sentient world, so that that line between people and not people is super blurry. Like, at what point is something not a person? You know, if in season 1 of the Horde, the realm, the place where the Horde were living, became sentient. So, like, is the place a person? What makes a person? So what I'm saying is there will be a lot of, like, animal folky types. So I've already got otter folk in there, I've already got cat folk, I've got lizard folk, but I'm also imagining that there would be basically any, because there are Melixies, which are little pixies that are like insect pixies, right? So they're like they're like fey insects, but they're sentient, they're mischievous little beasties. So all the like I know D&D had a lot of them by the time, like in 5e, which is when I stopped playing, was when they switched away from 5e. Mostly because wizards were being dicks. And, you know, like the hippo people, I can't remember what they were called, and there were a whole lot. So essentially I might just put in here beast folk, which is a terrible word that I want to change, but we'll come back to that as well. fun thing about creativity is sometimes you've just got to put the placeholder in and keep moving, because otherwise you get super stuck. Alright, so we're going to start with something easy. We'll start with elves, because this is a very elfy world. I realize this is all like stuck together, and it will eventually become. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a couple of columns on that side. They end up in the wrong place. I want them on the side of the elves, thank you. Oh, I see. It's because it's doing it from... We have to go this way. There we go. I'll put a few on each side. I do realize this is going to become huge, and I will probably eventually move it from Excel to something more like one of those like whiteboard systems. Oh! Hi! What word are we changing? Beast folk, which is people who have animal ancestry. I don't like beast folk because it sounds like it sounds ooh, what does that mean? Where does that come from? Say more words. Miro. Knowing you, it's probably Japanese. Yeah, I'm guessing. Anyway, hi, good morning. Oh! Wow. Yes, exactly, something like that. I was still thinking about the bespoke thing. I was like, is that some kind of cultural folklore thing that I don't know about? No, it's a it's a tool, Jax. Yes, I will probably start using something like Miro. I think that I have access to, is it Jira, the one connected to Trello, which I think is Jira, because I have a Trello account. But anyway, we'll get to that. For now, I'm sticking with what I know because Excel makes sense for my brain, and you just have to deal with watching me make spreadsheets. Alright, so what this means is we need to go back here, and we need to go back to races. We do not like that word. It's funny because Pathfinder uses the word ancestries now, but archives underneath this is still using races. That's fine. Alright, call elf. Give me the elf. So in Pathfinder, there are feats that are connected to elves, or to ancestry, sorry. It might be easier if we go into Hero Labs, maybe? Which is the tool we use in the Gallant Horde at the moment. As for Japanese, a lot of beast folk would fall. Yeah. I feel like I want something that is a word that isn't already connected to other things. But I'm still kind of noodling at that in my brain. Because I want to throw out the idea that they are less human. Human is a problematic word. Less person, I guess, than more humanoid people are. Because that's just not how Azurhia works because of the nature of it. That isn't a thing. So I don't know. We'll get there anyway. I don't need to have all the answers just yet. I just need to. I guess it would be in here. Less sentient being. Yeah, exactly. So what I'm looking for, oh, there we go, feats, is we have general feat, general feats. I want like, maybe it is under ancestries. There we go, ancestry feats. That's what we're after. Okay, so I don't want dwarfs. I want elves, because that's what we're working with as a starting point. Okay, to further complicate matters, every group has subgroups. So, on Azurhia, we're not going to worry about ancient elves. We do have Arctic elves. This is why it's a tree. Arctic elf. I guess Cavern elf is essentially drow. I don't use the word Nach elf. which is where the Nachforendenen come from. I realise I'm now just throwing my Afrikaans in there, but deal with it. We definitely have seer elves. Elf. Woodland elf, definitely. That's all they've got. Okay, what have they missed? Sea elf. Just gonna make these all. Arctic. Underdark. Maybe we just... I hate using the word dark elf. Just toss in other languages. Yeah, I do it a lot because obviously I speak English, duh, but I speak reasonably decent Afrikaans, or at least I did at one point. It's very rusty now. I speak a bit of Zulu. I speak a tiny bit of Arabic. I speak a smattering of Spanish, in that I can have very, very simple conversations in Spanish. I'm learning German. I'm picking up a bit of Tereo. So yeah, I have a lot of languages in my repertoire. Dark elf cavern, yeah. My Underdark is called, I think I went with Darklands, but I think that's actually a Pathfinder thing, so maybe we need to rethink that one too. I know, we'll leave it. I'm gonna put Dark Elf in. We know what that means. We'll come back to it. Let's just make these bigger. Oh, I don't know. 20? Ooh, too big. Too big. Let's make this forest. Then it'll probably fit, and it actually makes more sense. Alright, so Darklands, Arctic, Seers, Forest, Sea. Who am I leaving out? Am I leaving anyone out? Thinking about my world. I guess mountains. Mountains are very significant. Okay, we'll go with that for now. Alright, let's just make this big now. What do I want to do? I want you to rap, please. And I want you to center, please. Gracias. Alright. Oh no, why? Why? Honestly. Thought I would just put it back how it was, but no, that would be too simple. Thank you, Windows, for being not simple. Why? Why are you being... Why won't you move? This, please. Gracias. Okay. Maybe we should nag Robin for underground science. Oh, that's a really good idea, actually. Get the geologist on the case. Yeah. Maybe. Ooh, desert. We have a big desert. We should have a desert elf. That should be a thing. Totes. Alrighty. Column width 10. Okay. So, as before, we are going to just pick one. I'm gonna go with forest because I feel like I bet desert elves think Titania is pretty cool. All that sunshine. I mean, yeah, I think in the first season I sent a team to a Temple of the Sun or Temple of Light or something, and that was in my brain. That was on this world in that desert. So, yep, that's the thing. Alrighty. So I'm gonna move this down because there will be some things that are. Oh, I suppose we could do. Let's just throw another column in here. No. Make new one, please. Gracias. Alright. We'll just do general, which is, so general would be with the, yeah, it was the one with the scorpion centaurs. I made up the scorpion centaurs because I like to fuck with things. So the idea of this is that general will be things that apply to any elf, and then these would be things that apply to these specific elves. Oh yeah? I can't even remember what you were trying to do. I think you were trying to get something which she considered to belong to her because, like, Temple of the Sun, right? That's basically her. And they they had a different name for her, or it was a different um, like version of her. I don't know. I don't even know if it was a her in that particular one. Like our Titania is definitely girl, but you know there are plenty of cultures where the sun is considered to be male, and in those ones, was it Ger's shield? It might have been actually. Now that you say that, it might have been. She was getting it to give to him, and then she did because Pelor is also a sun god, and Ger was a paladin of Pelor, which would then have just been a different incarnation of her essentially. But yeah. Anyway, point being, that temple was definitely on this world, and probably now that I've refined the deities, would be a temple to Solum, which is the second sun, which is the son of Solaria, because apparently the ancient Azurians were into puns. Okay, distracted. Right, so this is going to just keep getting wider and wider as we grow it, but that's fine. That's the whole point. All right, so HP. Elves are D6. So I would say I'm going to actually just leave that for now, but essentially you could use, if we go the way that I'm thinking right now, which I am still not sure that I'm going to do, you could use your part of your skill point pool to increase your HP at any point if you have the points. Right. Okay. So you would start with, so these are so this is essentially, okay, wow. I had like 4 thoughts at once. I think what we would do is we would start with a set of, like, part of the character creation process would be a set of points that you apply to kind of start off your ancestry and class journeys. And those things would, when you make your character, those things, some of them would just happen. And that would be these kind of dex. It's not going to be intelligence, because in the Jax world, there are not races that are more smart than other races, because that's racist. So all the attribute boosts are going to be physical boosts. Sorry about it. Deal with it. So the HP is one thing. Dexterity. Elves are definitely dexterous. Dexterity. Let's just go. What do you get? +1? I assume it's +1. I'm going to just say +1. Dex. Let's just go Dex. Okay. So you would get whatever ancestry you go with, you would get 1 physical attribute boost, but you will not get the psychological attribute boosts, because those are associated with your class, not your ancestry. Because you can get dumb elves and you can get smart goblins. And don't come at me. I'm not interested. Alright. Languages are also not going to be associated with ancestry. Reason being, you could be an elf who was adopted by goblins when you were a baby, and then you would not in fact speak Elven. You would speak Goblin. I realize a lot of this is just to make it simple. I get that, but like, come on. Okay, so also, while this intelligence modifier thing in Pathfinder is quite fun, I actually think languages should be their own separate thing. So languages will come under here somewhere. This would be languages, where you can learn languages. And I actually think, I've just had this thought, that maybe we make languages also a ranked, just thinking about how I just described my languages earlier, ranked abilities in the way that you would do with Oh, no, you know what we do? We don't even do that. Languages come under expertise. The languages come here. Branwood, were you here when I was explaining expertise last time? Have you watched that one? Do you know what I'm talking about when I talk about expertise? So, we're not putting languages in the skill tree, we're putting languages under expertise. Because they are things you consciously learn. You're behind. Okay, would you like a real quick primer? The gist is we have our 6 basic stats. As before, I've replaced intelligence with reason, and I've replaced wisdom with instinct, because I think that that is a clearer distinction of what they do. Reason is about, let me solve this problem with my brain, and instinct is about, my gut is saying, ugh, the vibe is off. Instinct doesn't actually necessarily mean that you're super wise. It just means you have real good gut feel. And then we have expertise, which kind of relates to the big kind of skill lists in both D&D and Pathfinder, but you build those as you go, and they are character specific. So you would start off with 2 that are class based, 3 others, because you're a level 1 whatever you are, and you don't actually know shit when you're level 1. You know slightly more than the average person. And then you would nominate 2 more. So this would be like your class-based expertise, for example, for a rogue would be things like pickpocketing or lockpicking or stealth or street deception, or whatever it is that you've been doing as a small-time hustle rogue. To what kind of rogue are you basically? Are you the kind of person who's doing the cup trick on the street, in which case you're probably looking at something like deception or performance? Are you someone who sneaks into people's houses, in which case you're probably looking at stealth and lockpicking? Whatever. 2 that are based on that class, that original class that you start with. And then the 3 others are things that come from your backstory. So your mama was a baker, you have expertise in baking. Or in your case, or in Lorelai's case, expertise on cabbage farming, for example. Whatever it is, it's 3 other things that make sense given your backstory. So that's where you're coming from, and then you nominate 2 more, which you don't have yet, but which gives your character some kind of focus for where they're going. And that's kind of an above the table thing. So your character may not know that, or they may have gone, I have gone into adventuring because I want to learn more about monsters that live in the forest. So then your expertise would be something like the fauna of the Great Althean Forest. And so it gives your character direction to go in, and you as a player are conscious of that direction. And that can be character intentional or not, depending on whether you're doing it as the player or the character. Those, if the story takes you in a different direction, that's cool. You don't necessarily have to use them in the end, but the idea is just to help players to focus their characters. And then I'll probably add 1 language in there as well, because most people can usually speak 1 language, at least, and then you could potentially add more as you go along. So that skill list then becomes something you build, but it still has the Pathfinder like ranking, the trained, expert, blah blah blah. There'll be 5 ranks. They may have different names because I've never been able to hold the Pathfinder ones in my brain. And then these are the skills and feats that you get as you build your character. So that it's the stuff that you would normally get as part of your leveling process. What I said right at the start, 1 language on top of common. Yes, that's what I mean. Everyone speaks common, but you probably would have 1 other language. So if you were raised by goblins, you can speak goblin. If you grew up in an elven home, you can speak elvish. Elven, whatever it's called, etc. Whatever that is. It might be a regional language. It might be a cultural language. I will also probably make a language list that is specific to Azurhia. So, for example, the desert tribes would have their own language. So Bria would have had that language. I also kind of like the idea of elves having dialects because, for example, like in our current group of people, we have Neris and Siren, who are twins, and they come from an order of elves that like lives in isolation in the Malahayan jungle, which their Elvish is probably like Chaucerian English, right? Like it wouldn't be the Elvish that is spoken in Eldercastle. But anyway, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But this is so my idea about leveling is less that you would get. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Eilish. Is less that you would get. You know, I'm now level 2. I'm gonna get a bunch of these things, and they just happen by magic. This then becomes much more of a conscious character growth. So you would choose things that make sense for the character and the story. It also means that you could potentially super multi-class if that was how you wanted to go. Like you could really jack of all trades that shit if you really wanted to. You'd never be very good at any of it, but that's the side effect of jack of all trades, right? Is that you're kind of good at a bunch of stuff. But in theory, there's no reason why you couldn't just take one level of every single class if that's what you wanted to do. Just magically knowing things off as things keep for granted. Yeah, like it's funny, right? It doesn't actually make a lot of sense when you think about it. So that's what I mean about creating something that is a lot more rooted in the story than these systems. And I get why the systems do it this way, because it does make it easier to do. But I'd rather have good story than have easy. Anyway, so that's the thing. Okay. So I do think that the low light vision, and I like the idea still of keeping the difference between low light vision and dark vision, because I think that, well, actually, I don't know, maybe we just make it dark vision and keep it simple. We'll go with that for now. Alrighty. Blah blah blah. Beliefs. All elves believe the same things because we are racist dickheads. Okay. So, Arctic elves would then also obviously get cold resistance. That makes sense. Cold resistance. I would say mountain elves would get like I want to call it something like goat-footed. No, that's satyrs though. I'm thinking of like, you know, like maybe they just get climbing. They're just real good at climbing, like goats. Underground elves. I want to give them like, what have they given them? Dark vision. Meh. I want to give them like, yeah, rough terrain, but only if it's rocky. Like only if it's mountain related. You can't be like, I'm a mountain elf, so I'm really good at thorns. I don't know. I like climbing. I think that if you give them climbing, you give them just a climbing speed, so they can just climb, instead of having to do, you know, like checks for it. They're just real good at the clamber. What I want to give dark elves is direction sense. So they have an innate ability to know which way to go. Dig speeds. They're all just actually moles. Because we, whether we know it or not, mostly direct by the sun. People who live above ground direct by the sun, or the stars. But you don't have that if you've grown up in caverns, so there's like an innate kind of you know, you can kind of go, okay, that's north. I feel like that makes sense in Magic World. Seer Elves obviously will have some kind of foresight. I'm also being very general here because I'm trying to keep it straightforward. What have they given? Whisper Elves make no sense to me. Why is that a thing? A whole race of people who are just real good at hearing shit. Okay. See, they've given Woodland Elves climb, but I feel like this should be something like survival, actually. In forests. And maybe... yeah, we'll go with that for now. And then Sea Elf obviously would have a swim speed and underwater breathing because they live in the sea. Desert Elves would have resistance. Ooh. Resistance to heat. Let's just move this across a bit. I kind of want to give everyone a second one now that I've given them a second one. Breathing. So if we give the, and then the thing that springs to mind, so I'm just going to write it down, is diplomacy with forest beings. Given that many of the forest beings, dryads, are Kaladeks, growing up in that environment means that they're good at talking to those kinds of people. What else did they give seers? Oh, like magic. That actually kind of makes sense. Detect magic. I'm going to call it magic sense. Because detect magic is a specific spell. Instead of having the spell, I'm going to say that Seer Elves have a innate kind of I can sense magic in this room thing. Was that a reaction to my Forest Elves diplomacy? Okay, direction sense, and I mean maybe we do this, but it's +1 diplomacy with. I'm going to continue to use the word Darklands till I have a better one. Darklands beings. Look, it's not a formula. It's not a formula. I just forgot to tell you that it's not a formula. There you go. Okay, Arctic Elves. See, they only get one thing. Some people get like these guys get a bajillion things. The Arctic Elves get one thing: cold resistance. That's it. All right. Mountain Elves. I need another one for desert, Arctic, and mountain. Detect magic is less power. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think that the D&D version of Detect Magic gives you a lot of information for something that's basically a cantrip. I mean, I guess we could... Oh no, we've already given Forest Elves 2 things. Unsurprisingly, it's the ones that I made up that I'm struggling with. So we've given Desert Elves resistance to heat. Maybe we just give them a +1 survival in deserts so they can find water and... Oh, maybe we give them the ability to create water. Because elves are innately magical. Is that too OP? Maybe we make them like camels. They can last longer without water then. Yeah, like maybe it's just enough for themselves. Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's go. Limited to... I'll give it a better name. I'll give everything better names later. To a handful... like 3 times a day. Arctic elves have cold resistance. I'm gonna give them like... There's no point giving them a fire-based thing because they have cold resistance. So why would you give them two things that basically do the same thing? Maybe we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Okay. So then it's figuring out which feats we want to put in here. So the idea would be that you can choose things on the tree, but there's a certain amount of, some things have prerequisites. So like, and this is going to be much more significant. They have chilly hands, perfect for beverage temperature control. Are you talking about the deserts or the Arctics? The Arctics. They can make. Maybe they could just like heat up. No, I don't know. I feel like it needs to not be temperature related. It needs to be like something to do. Maybe they could just walk on snow. They can pull a Legolas. We'll call it Legolas legs. Will I remember later what this means? I don't know. Walk on top of snow. I'm calling it Legolas legs for now. I'll probably have to change it because copyright is a thing. But yeah, exactly. Like they can walk on the top. I don't know about mountains yet. Don't know about mountains yet. What else are mountains about? Maybe they have like the ability to, because one of the things about a lot of mountainous terrains is there are many creatures disguised as rocks. That is a thing that happens a lot. So maybe they have like a +1 to perception to differentiate. We'll have to give this a better name too, between beings disguised as rocks and ordinary rocks. Maybe we just give them, oh god, I did it again, like a geology skill. Like oh well, I don't know, we'll come back to it. Like a geology, you know what I mean? Like okay. Okay. You've studied traditional elven arts, learnt about arcane magic, arcana, and nature. If you would automatically become trained. Okay, so a lot of these are giving you essentially what I would call expertise, and I really want the expertise to be things that are learnt along the way. So rock identification. Geological. Robin is going to never play anything except a mountain elf. I want a word that is like savant, but not quite as wild genius. Acumen. There we go. We'll go with that. All right. What was I saying? Yeah, so I want the things on the skills to be much more specific than that. I don't want it to just be like, I'm now good at nature. Like we can put some of that in here. So there would be like, you could choose to be good at, you know, the flora and fauna of your particular area. But it's entirely possible to grow up in a place and just never bother to learn any of the things about it. So, and also you could be a mountain elf and then, oh, we've fallen into the thing. These should be innate ancestral things. Yeah. These should be innate ancestral things, so that if you are a mountain elf but you grew up in Murterra, you still just have it. I think climbing is fine, because that could be a physical, you could have little spider hairs, right? That one is probably not. That's fine. That's fine. I think those... what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put that back and I'm just going to highlight them for now, as maybe we need to come back to this and rethink it. Give me more choices. Where does it hide the thingy? That's fine. And this one. No, this one. No, not that one. The diplomacy ones, I think. We'll just highlight them as maybe we need to rethink this. And then come back to them. Okay. See, again, like, why would you just fundamentally understand elf weapons if you've never actually held one? It doesn't make much sense to me. Although I suppose if these are further down, well... See, these are all actually based on things that are not about being an elf. Like... I have lived a long time and learnt a lot of things. What if you're just a really long-lived human or something that's not an elf, right? You've studied traditional elven arts. You could have done that if you were a gnome. You could have learned how to use elf weapons if you were a gnome. I have lived a long time and I'm real sad about my friends dying. You can make your muscles better. Your elven magic manifests as a simple arcane spell even if you aren't formally trained in magic. Okay, that one kind of works. But I would say there has to be a triggering event to unlock it. Okay, so we will do otherworldly magic. Dump that in there. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of them will have prerequisites. And then at the top, I'm going to say must have a triggering event. By which I mean, so if you're going to take, I don't even know what the arcane spells are, but if you're going to take whatever the spell is, then you need to be able to point at something in your backstory that says, or in what has happened that says, this is why this has manifested. Your mystic control and meditations. What if you're like a certain elven bard we know who has very little id control? I am very old and so I am very thorough. I am very old and so I'm very suspicious. I am somehow miraculously good at fighting. See, I actually think most of these are stupid. Like the otherworldly stuff I can kind of buy. Oh, here we just gave them climb speed. That's a 9th level feat. Why are they suddenly old? Exactly, like, it, yeah. Avenge ally. Yeah, I'm actually thinking most of these are dumb. Because they're all reliant on something in your real life. So maybe we just don't. Maybe we just don't. Maybe we just don't. We'll come back to it. Because almost all of those could be rewritten to be class-based or just a skill that is gathered by living in the world, right? Like, I've known 25-year-olds who were jaded and sad because they had seen too many of their friends die. Like, you don't have to be 300 for that to be the case. So I think we might just stop there. Maybe we don't even give them this. Maybe we just delete that. Sure. And we put that in somewhere else. Maybe the general stuff. Do you need? Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't actually think we do. I don't think we do. I think we give them these basic, basic things based on, and everybody gets a couple of basic things that are like innate physical things that come from your ancestry, and then everything else falls into the either class or general stuff. Because I think a lot of these things, even we could rewrite them to be, if we want to keep them, we could rewrite the ones that are interesting to be just general stuff that people can take at any point if they meet the prerequisite. So like if something happens that makes you, I don't know, give me a random cantrip. You play a caster, give me a random cantrip. Yeah, exactly. But even that, right, you're only going to get better at flying if you use it. Why would you get better at flying if you never fly? Like, if you're a thing with wings, but you never use them, your wings are just going to atrophy. Prestidigitation, excellent example. So maybe you have a experience where you have to rescue some children from a very, very filthy house. And as a result of it, you become obsessed with things being clean. And because you live in a magic world, this manifests as the ability to suddenly do prestidigitation. I think we could do something like that, like the otherworldly magic, but I don't think it needs to be specific to elves. I think that could just be anyone who, like, you live in a very high magic world, so anyone who has, yeah, exactly. Yep. I was looking at some spells the other day because I was rebuilding Andaline, because her story has changed in my brain, and so what I originally built doesn't make sense anymore. And there are spells there that are just basically like, I cast ADHD, and it's like the target becomes really confused and can no longer focus on a single thing. They are distracted by many things, and I'm just like, oh god. All right. Yeah, I think that is a better solution. I think that's a better solution. All right, so like we could do a longevity line, but you have to be you have to be like, well, it says 100 years, so let's go with that. 100 rotations old, at least. And that gives you the ability to, can't be bothered with all of that, but let's go add one again to these points to spend on table as you wish. And then that we can literally just go get an extra 2 for every 100 years. Something like that. That is just going to be expertise stuff, so. My feat is angst. I am good at ignoring emotion due to my ennui. Yeah, see? Congratulations, you have saved from ADHD magic. Alright, and then we can have otherworldly magic, which I do think this is a cool one. But prerequisites must have had an event that catalyzed the magic. Otherworldly. Yeah. Oh my god, they've switched me. My doctor switched me to the long-acting Ritalin, and I now take it twice a day, and it has been amazing because it means that I take a second one at midday, and I do not lose the entire afternoon anymore, and it is fucking insane. It's so cool. So cool. Alright, you manifest a simple arcane. I'm gonna just make it a cantrip. Pick a cantrip, any cantrip. I'm not doing heightened spells. I'm gonna do that differently. I haven't decided yet. It's an innate. We're just gonna take the arcane out because it can be anything. If you have a religious experience in a temple, maybe you get a divine spell. And I will say you can do that 3 times, and then you have maxed that out. Your mystic control and meditations allow you to resist. Okay, so this is actually just these things, the save stuff, I think. We're gonna just leave that alone. I can spend a lot of time doing a thing to do it better. I feel like you don't need a feat for that. Just be more cautious. It's also just a save, right? So we've already covered that. Getting good at weapons is expertise stuff. Really, that seems dumb.
I've had a great night and now I'm starving and I really want a chicken nugget sandwich.
Why
Air fry the nuggets.
is my music
now
gone weird? Is it because it's gone to an ad?
The nuggets are
Maybe.
done.
I don't know. Sorry, we might be
the
accidentally
nugget bread.
advertising something. I didn't intend to.
down
It's
the
because I
esophagus.
don't have real
One in 4
YouTube.
house fires start
Real,
in the
I haven't
kitchen.
paid YouTube
It's
not to
easy
show
get
me ads.
distracted if under the influence of drugs or alcohol. If you're cooked,
Oh
stay
my
off the
god.
stove.
Go away. Thank you. No, that's not what I want. I want this. Where is it? There. Okay. So I don't really want to do this the retraining thing. That's not a thing. I've already got the otherworldly thing. We've done the climb speed thing. Chicken nugget sandwich. Yeah, I don't know. It was showing an ad. I've skipped it now. Avenge ally. The temptation to make that a thing that you can do only if you've watched someone you care about die. And it's not something you can take at the start. So it's not a starting feat. So you can only do it after watching one of your party members do it. Alright, we'll do it. So prerequisite. Yes, gotta love it. I also like the idea of learning something from something bad that happens, right? Must have watched someone significant to you. So you can't now claim that because you watched someone in your party die who you've never even spoken to, that you are traumatized and can now avenge your allies. No, it has to be someone who mattered. Must have watched someone significant to you die in combat. Be very specific. Yeah. Well, part of, you would have missed this last time, but part of the way you increase your stats and your expertise is you get points to spend on those tables, and the way you get those points is sometimes but through failure. So if you fail spectacularly at something and the consequences of your failure are terrible, then you can choose to focus on that thing to learn to do it better. And when you do that, then you can spend those expertise points in that thing. So like if you try to unlock a door and you cannot do it, and as a result your team is caught and you end up in a big fight, like catastrophic failure of that kind, then you can go, okay, well, I'm now going to learn lockpicking, because I don't want to be in that situation again. So the idea that failure leads to learning is something that I really wanted to build into this, because I think that players are more likely to try and do, to say those words that are music to my ears. I want to try a crazy thing. And yep. And I feel like that, honestly, in real life, that's where most of the best learning happens, is when you fuck shit up. Like, that's when you screw up, that's when you really learn. Well, if you're the sort of person who learns from your mistakes, which we should all be, because we all make them, so you may as well make them worth something. Alright, what are we doing? Avenge ally. I'm gonna have to go really soon, so avenge ally. That's not how you spell ally. And we'll pop that as a comment so that we don't get everything real messy. And I'm just gonna dump this in. Yeah. So, once every 10 minutes. That seems a lot. Oh no, because someone has to be dying. We will just leave out the stuff about this. We will go seeing an ally at death's door brings clarity to your attacks. Make a strike roll twice on the attack roll and use the higher result. It essentially gives you advantage. I may tweak some of these things, but we're just people use powerful magic to travel between distant worlds and the distant past, and you're good at teleportation is basically what that is saying. Alright. If you're doing that so much that once every 10 minutes... Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was why I was like, 10 minutes seems a lot, and then I was like, oh no, wait, it's only if someone's dying. If someone's dying every 10 minutes, you have bigger problems than having an OP skill. Okay, I'm gonna pause there, but I think what we might do is next time we'll start at the top of this list and just work through these ancestry feats and figure out where they need to fit on here, and then spend some time maybe going through the different ancestries and just doing this base level stuff, because I think once we get to the point where we're doing the class skills, it's going to get very complex very quickly, which is fine, but yeah, I think this is the easy stuff, so let's knock it out a little bit quicker. It's got yep. What if Gertrude just becomes undead? Is that enough to make you... I suppose she has to die to become undead, so technically that will work. Yes, leveling through trauma. Welcome to Jax's world. Okay, I'm gonna call it there because I need to go get ready for work. But thanks for coming and hanging with me, Miss Branwood. Ms. I don't know why I said Miss. It's weird that immediately as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, that seems weird. And yeah, I will be back on Tuesday to do some Azurhia lore drop stuff. This week Tuesday we did some family tree building. I haven't really decided what we're going to work on next week yet. I will probably jump around a bit because I have ADHD and focusing on one thing for a very long time is actually something I do quite often, but not on command. So yeah, we'll probably follow a different rabbit hole, but it's all good. So join us for that, and I'll be doing this again next Thursday. Wednesday nights we are now doing Jax is not a gamer, but Adam is, so we're alternating. 1 week I do Jax is not a gamer. That's on Twitch though, where I spin a wheel and play a game I've never played before, and then the following week Adam plays that exact game sight unseen, and you can watch both of us do it and see how very, very differently we solve things. That's what we're doing at the moment. I love you guys. You're amazing. Thanks for body doubling with me while I try and get this shit done. And I will see you next time. Have a beautiful time zone. Mwah. Adios.